It's 120 degrees Fahrenheit outside, but inside this Amish barn, a perfect 75 degrees Fahrenheit. No fans, no electricity, no AC. So how are they pulling off this summer miracle? Welcome back. Today we're uncovering one of the most genius summer hacks you've probably never heard of. Straight from the Amish countryside. No power, no tech, just brilliant natural design. If you're into budget-friendly, off-grid living or love learning from old-world wisdom, this one's gonna blow your mind. Number 1 location. You might think the Amish just pick any spot on their land and start building, but no way. When it comes to placing a barn, they're like real estate agents with pitchforks. Seriously, location is everything. And not just because they want it close to the house or the fields. They build with nature in mind, not against it. So how do they decide where to put the barn? It's not random. Every choice has a reason. They look at wind patterns, sunlight, shade from trees, and even the lay of the land. For example, many Amish barns are built facing east-west. That might not sound important, but it is. This direction helps avoid direct afternoon sun. The sun hits the narrow sides of the barn instead of the long ones, so less heat gets inside during the hottest part of the day. And here's another trick. They place the barn where the breeze can hit it best. If there's a common wind direction, they position the barn so that air can move through easily. No fans needed, just smart planning. They also use trees for shade. Not just any trees, tall, leafy ones. These act like free umbrellas for the barn. Trees block the sun before it ever touches the walls. That keeps things cooler inside without spending a dime. Sometimes they even build near water sources, like a pond or stream. Water cools the air around it naturally. So if a breeze passes over water and then into the barn, it brings along that cooler feeling. It's all about working with what's already there. The Amish don't fight nature. They use it to their advantage. Another thing they pay attention to is the slope of the land. If the ground is flat, fine. But if it's hilly, they'll often place the barn on the south-facing side. That gives more airflow and better drainage. Water runs away from the barn, not toward it. And you don't want wet ground next to your barn. Moisture causes rot, mold, and bad smells. So by choosing higher or sloped ground, they keep the barn dry and strong for decades. Also, think about animals. Most Amish barns house livestock during hot summer days, so they need to make sure the barn isn't sitting in a pocket of trapped heat. That would be dangerous for both animals and people, so they find spots where the air can flow freely. Maybe on a ridge or near an open field. That way, even on the hottest days, there's always some kind of breeze moving through. And let's not forget about dust and smell. A well-placed barn doesn't trap those either. The wind carries them away, keeping the space fresh. Now, here's something else most people don't think about. The barn's distance from the house. You'd think they'd build it as close as possible, but sometimes they actually build it farther out, especially if the house sits in a low area. Why? Because cool air sinks. So if the barn is uphill from the house, it stays drier and cooler. Plus, any unwanted smells or dust stay down below, not drifting up to where people live. This kind of thinking is second nature to the Amish. They've been doing this for generations. They know the land, they know the weather, and they know exactly where to build. So when you see an Amish barn standing strong in the middle of summer, remember, it wasn't just built anywhere. It was built everywhere right. Every detail matters, from which way it faces, to what's around it, to what's under it. No electricity, no AC, just plain old common sense, and a little help from Mother Nature. Number 2, smart design and ventilation. Now that we know where the Amish build their barns, let's talk about how they build them. And trust me, these barns are not just big wooden boxes. They're built like living, breathing machines for cooling. The secret? Airflow. And a lot of it. You see, the Amish don't use fans or AC units. But they've mastered the art of moving air the old-fashioned way through smart design. First up, high ceilings. Most Amish barns have ceilings that tower above your head. Some are 2 stories tall inside. Why? Because hot air rises. So when the sun beats down all day, the heat doesn't just sit on top of the animals or tools, it goes up and out. But how does it get out? Through something called a cupola. That's the little house-shaped thing you see on top of many barns. It looks cute, but it's doing real work. Inside that cupola are vents, openings that let the hot air escape. As the warm air rises, it gets pulled out through those vents like magic. And what comes in to replace it? Cool air. That cool air sneaks in through lower windows, doors and side vents. So you've got a full cycle going. Hot air out, cool air in. No electricity, no noise. Just nature doing its thing. And guess what? The Amish plan every vent and window with care. They don't just slap them on wherever. Each opening is placed to help the air move smoothly through the barn. Some barns even have adjustable shutters. These can be opened wider in summer and closed tighter in winter. That way, airflow stays under control no matter the season. It's like having a thermostat made of wood and nails. Another trick? Sliding doors on both sides. If it's windy, they open both ends. That creates a breeze that blows straight through the barn like a giant fan. You walk in one side and feel the difference right away. Also, many barns have wide aisles in the centre, not just for carts or horses, but for air to travel. That open space becomes a kind of highway for cool air. And remember, this isn't just about comfort. It's about health, for both people and animals. In the summer, livestock can overheat fast. Cows, chickens, goats, they all need shade and airflow. Without it, they get stressed or sick. But in an Amish barn, they stay calm and cool, naturally. Even the shape of the roof plays a role. Many barns have steeply pitched roofs. That helps air rise faster. It also keeps rainwater off the walls better than a flat roof ever could. So everything works together. High ceilings, cupolas, vents, windows, doors, even the slope of the roof. They're all part of a system that keeps the barn comfortable without a single wire or plug. And here's another detail most people miss: the placement of the stalls. If you look inside an Amish barn, you'll notice that the animal stalls aren't packed tightly against the walls. There's space between them and the outer walls. That space lets air flow behind the stalls, keeping things cooler and drier. No mould, no damp smells, just fresh, moving air. And some barns even have small openings near the floor. These let cool air come in at ground level and push the hot air up and out. It's like a loop, a never-ending cycle of fresh air. No filters, no ducts, no power bills, just good, clean design. And that's what makes it genius. Every piece has a purpose. Every hole in the wall is there for a reason. There's no guessing, no waste, no extra gadgets. Just a barn built to breathe. Number 3. Natural insulation and materials. Now let's talk about what the barns are actually made of, because that plays a huge role in keeping them cool. You won't find fiberglass insulation or foam board inside an Amish barn. Nope, they use what's around them, and it works better than you'd think. Wood is the main material. Thick wooden walls, not just for strength, but for temperature control. See, wood breathes. It doesn't trap heat like concrete. And in summer, that makes a big difference. Those thick beams and planks act like a sponge for temperature. They soak up the cool from the night air and hold on to it during the day. So even when it starts heating up outside, the inside stays nice and steady. And some barns go even further. They're built with straw bales packed into the walls. Straw? Yep. That stuff we usually see stacked on farms in the fall. It's not just for decoration, it's one of nature's best insulators. Straw has tiny air pockets trapped inside. Those pockets slow down heat movement, so when it's hot outside, the heat can't rush through the walls. Same thing in winter. The straw keeps warmth inside. That's why some Amish barns still feel cool in July and warm in January, all with the same walls. Another secret weapon? Clay. Some barns use clay mixed with straw to fill in gaps between logs or stones. That mix dries into a hard, breathable layer that helps regulate temperature. Clay also absorbs moisture from the air, so if it's humid, the walls pull in that extra water and keep things dry inside. No mould, no dampness, just clean, cool air. And stone? Oh, they love stone. Many older Amish barns have stone foundations or even full stone walls at the bottom. Why? Because stone holds cold. At night, when the ground cools down, the stone soaks it in. Then, during the day, it slowly releases that coolness back into the barn. It's like having a free, silent AC unit built into the floor. And unlike metal or concrete, stone doesn't absorb sunlight and blast it back as heat. It just sits there, doing its job quietly. Even the roof gets special treatment. Some barns use wooden shingles instead of metal sheets. Metal gets super hot in the sun. Wood? It stays cooler. So less heat comes through the roof and into the barn. And remember those high ceilings we talked about earlier? The materials up there matter too. Cupolas are often made of wood and painted white or light colours. That helps reflect sunlight instead of soaking it in. Every detail counts. There's no plastic, no spray foam, no synthetic chemicals, just wood, straw, clay and stone, working together to make life easier. And here's something else. These materials don't just help with cooling, they last longer too. Synthetic insulation breaks down over time. But straw and clay, they age well, they stay strong, and they keep performing year after year. So when you walk into an Amish barn, don't be surprised if it feels like stepping into a cellar. Even in mid-July. That's not magic, that's smart building, and it all starts with what they use to build. Number 4, roof overhangs and shade. You've probably seen those big overhangs on Amish barns. They stick out a long way from the sides, like giant wooden eyebrows. But they're not just for looks. Those overhangs are doing serious work when the sun starts beating down. Think about it. The sun is strongest during the middle of the day. That's when it shines the brightest and hottest. And if a barn has no shade, that sunlight hits the walls and windows straight on. It turns the whole building into an oven. But not in Amish country. Those wide eaves act like a built-in umbrella. They block the sun before it can hit the walls or sneak through the windows. So instead of heating up the inside, the sunlight just bounces off the roof and stays outside where it belongs. That's huge, because once the heat gets inside, it's hard to get rid of. But if you stop it before it comes in, problem solved. The overhangs are usually made of wood, and they're built to last. Some stick out 3 feet or more. That's enough to shade most of the barn's walls all day long. Even the windows get special treatment. Many are placed under the overhang so they don't catch direct sunlight. That means less glare, less heat, more comfort. And here's something else cool. The angle of the roof matters too. Most Amish barns have steeply pitched roofs, not just because they look nice, but because that pitch helps the overhangs cover even more ground. It's like having a bigger hat. The steeper the roof, the longer the shadow it casts. And that shadow? That's free cooling. No fans, no AC, just geometry and good planning. Now, let's talk about how this affects the inside of the barn. If the sun isn't hitting the walls, the temperature inside stays much lower. That makes life easier for both people and animals. Cows don't sweat like we do, but they still feel the heat. And chickens? They pant when they're hot, just like dogs. So keeping the barn shaded keeps them calm, healthy and productive. Plus, tools and equipment stay cooler too. Wood doesn't warp as fast. Metal doesn't expand and contract as much. Everything lasts longer. And here's another bonus. Those overhangs also protect the barn from rain and snow. They keep water from running down the walls and soaking into the wood. That prevents rot and mould, which means the barn stands strong for decades. Some Amish families have had the same barn for over 100 years, all thanks to smart design like this. It's not just about staying cool, it's about staying dry, safe, and strong. Also, think about dust and dirt. When the sun beats down on dry ground, it kicks up dust. That dust floats around and gets into everything. But with big overhangs, there's more shade near the barn. That keeps the ground cooler and damper. Less dust, cleaner air. It's one of those little details that makes a big difference over time. And guess what? These overhangs don't cost extra to run. There's no electric bill, no moving parts, just solid wood nailed into place. That's why they call it passive cooling. No noise, no wires, just nature working with design. And the Amish aren't the only ones who used this trick. Old farmhouses across America had wide porches and deep eaves for the same reason. But the Amish, they never stopped using it. They stuck with what works. And now, in a world full of gadgets and gizmos, their barns still stay cool, the old-fashioned way, all because of some wood sticking out from the roof. Number 5, thermal mass and evaporative cooling. Let's talk about something you might not expect in an Amish barn: science. Yep, even without electricity or gadgets, they're using real scientific principles to keep things cool. And two of the biggest ones are thermal mass and evaporative cooling. Let's start with thermal mass. That's a fancy term for materials that soak up heat during the day and release it at night, or vice versa. In the summer, that means the barn's floor or walls can absorb the cool air from the night and hold on to it all day long. So when the sun starts baking everything outside, the inside stays nice and steady. What makes this possible? Stone, earth, and sometimes concrete floors. Stone is one of the Amish's favourite materials, not just because it lasts, but because it's great at holding temperature. It's like a battery, but for coolness. At night, when the air gets cooler, the stone soaks in that chill. Then during the day, it slowly lets it out again. No fans, no AC, just the ground doing its thing. And if the barn has a dirt floor, instead of wood or concrete, even better, dirt holds moisture, and moisture helps regulate temperature. When the sun hits a dirt floor, it doesn't heat up fast like concrete does. It stays cool, damp, and comfortable underfoot. That's why walking into some Amish barns feels like stepping into a cellar, even on the hottest day. Now let's talk about evaporative cooling, another simple idea that works like magic. You've probably felt this before. When you get out of a pool or shower, you feel cold for a second, right? That's because as the water on your skin evaporates, it pulls heat away from your body. Well, the Amish use that same idea inside their barns. Some barns have barrels of water sitting near open windows or vents. As the hot air moves through the barn, it passes over the water and picks up some of that moisture. As the water evaporates, it cools the air around it. It's like having a free swamp cooler. No power needed. And guess what else? If there's a breeze, it spreads that cooled air even faster. It's a super low-cost way to drop the temperature by a few degrees, which can make a huge difference in comfort. Even livestock benefits from this trick. Animals don't sweat like we do, but they still feel the heat. And when the air is a little cooler, they stay calmer, eat better, and are less stressed. So smart barn builders know this, and plan for it. They might hang wet burlap sacks near windows or leave a small trough of water in a shaded corner. These are tiny details, but they add up. And here's another cool thing. The animals themselves help with cooling too. Chickens, cows, goats. They all give off moisture when they breathe and move around. That adds a bit of humidity to the air, which can help lower the temperature just a little more. Of course, too much humidity isn't good. That's why airflow is so important. It keeps things balanced. But with the right mix of thermal mass and evaporation, the barn becomes its own little climate zone. It's not perfect, but it's close enough, especially when you consider how little it costs to run. No wires, no filters, no monthly bills, just buckets, stone, and a little understanding of how nature works. And that's what makes these barns so special. They're not just buildings, they're systems. Everything inside them has a purpose. Everything works together. The floor keeps it cool, the walls store the chill, the water drops the temp, and the breeze spreads it all around. It's not complicated, but it's brilliant. And once again, the Amish prove that you don't need modern tech to beat the heat. Just a little science and a lot of wisdom. Old school wisdom, modern day magic. So what's the big takeaway here? The Amish don't need electricity to stay cool in the summer. They use design, materials, and nature to keep their barns at a perfect 75 degrees Fahrenheit, even when it's 120 degrees Fahrenheit outside. They pick the right location. They build for airflow. They use natural insulation like wood, straw, and clay. They shade the walls with wide overhangs. And they take advantage of thermal mass and evaporation to control temperature. No fans, no AC. Just smart thinking. And here's the best part. These ideas aren't just for Amish barns. You can use them in your own home, in a shed, in a greenhouse, even in a chicken coop. Want to reduce your power bill? Try adding more shade or using natural ventilation. Want to keep things cooler without AC? Think about thermal mass, like stone floors or water barrels near open windows. It's not magic, it's method. And that's what makes this so powerful. These are real, usable hacks, not gimmicks or gadgets that stop working after a year. They've stood the test of time. Some Amish barns are over a century old, and still keeping things cool the same way they always have. That's not just impressive, that's inspiring. So if you're into summer hacks, off-grid living, or just love learning from old world wisdom, there's a lot to take from this. Because sometimes the best solutions aren't new. They're old, proven, and built to last. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. It helps us reach more people like you. Drop a comment below. Have you tried any passive cooling techniques? Or would you build your own barn using Amish methods? And don't forget to subscribe for more summer hacks, off-grid tips, and genius life lessons from the past. See you in the next one. Stay cool.